Good morning, good day, good afternoon. Welcome to the Mulazama Nursing and Home Healthcare HR orientation. Our objectives for the orientation is to address and practice all our company's policies and procedures, to provide and deliver the company's history, mission, vision, and core values, to enhance communication between personnel, and to familiarize the personnel with the working environment. Our history. Our company was founded in May 2015 by our CEO, Mr. Tariq Nasser Al Ghaiti. As a businessman, he got interested in the home care industry and wanted to provide high-quality home care services for UAE nationals, and thus he established the Mulazama Nursing and Home Healthcare. We are located in Al Ain, in the Emirates of Abu Dhabi, and we are licensed by HARD since December 2015 until date and contracted with Daman. We are internationally accredited with Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facility, which is called CARF. Renewal for CARF accreditation will be this year, and we will be audited again for the renewal process to receive the new accreditation license. We have our new facility, which is Mulazama Nursing and Home Healthcare Branch 1 in Abu Dhabi, Qaladia, which will be opening this year. Until now, we have provided excellent quality of home care services and will continue in the future to maintain the reputation as a fair, well-recognized, professional, and motivated employer. Our mission is to provide excellent quality of home care services, and we are committed and dedicated to each and every person served and the staff that we will deliver our services professionally and reflecting our core values. Our vision is that we aspire to be the choice in providing an effective and quality home care services and to maintain to be the choice as a fair, well-recognized professional and motivated employer. Our core values are respect. We need to serve and work with respect. We need to respect the patient's rights, the rights of the employees, and also respect for the applicable rules of the stakeholders. Dedication. We are dedicated to provide excellent quality of home care services. Teamwork. We work as a team and we are growing as a family. Compassion. We always consider the patient's condition. We serve them with kindness and compassion and treat the person served as part of our growing family. Professionalism. We always provide services in a professional manner. Our organizational chart. We have our CEO, Mr. Tariq, our COO, Ms. Gayat, our admin assistant, Ms. Manal. Then we have our clinical manager, Dr. Hussam Al-Din Mahdi, our insurance manager, Mr. Arul, our IT specialist, our business development manager, Mr. Mohammed Naveed, our HR officer, Ms. Halima, myself, and our PRO, Mr. Khaled. Then under the clinical manager, we have our charge nurse, Ms. Jisha, and all the nurses, the physiotherapist, and the caregivers report to her. Then we have our clinical quality officer. Under her, we have our document controller, Ms. Anne. Under the insurance manager, we have our medical coder, Ms. Priya. And under Mr. Mohammed Naveed, we have the driver supervisor, the drivers, and we have our accountant, Mr. Mohammed Hassan. Communication flow chart. For the healthcare professionals, which are the nurses, caregivers, and the physiotherapists, you need to coordinate with your immediate supervisor, which is the charge nurse, or our clinical manager, which is the doctor, for any concerns regarding the patient and clinical queries. For concerns related to HR, you can coordinate with me, the HR officer. After relaying the concerns or questions to your designated department, it will be relayed and carried out to the COO for further assistance. We will now go through all the policies and procedures for our company. We have first the ethical codes of conduct. The purpose is to provide guidance and ensure that all work is accomplished in an ethical and legal manner. We need to operate with the highest principles and ethical business standards. Policy is that we are committed to be honest and have ethical behavior, and we conduct all businesses with integrity. The practice of behaving honestly, ethically, and with integrity is an individual's responsibility. Each one of us is accountable for our daily actions and behavior. The Code of Conduct serves as guideline for all personnel and others who interact with our company. Relationship with the public. We are truthful in all forms of communication and we avoid disseminating information that is false, misleading, or deceptive. Fiscal responsibilities. We maintain accounting records according to acceptable accounting principles and practices, and we have our financial records audited annually by an independent, external auditing firm. Marketing. According to UAE regulations, we may only publish promotional materials with all the information contained in those materials, which is factually accurate and capable of being verified by evidence which we can make available on request in case needed. Contractual relationships. All contractual relationships are based on ethical and lawful agreements. Relationships with outside organizations. We operate with all reasonable and lawful demands made by governmental investigations or law enforcement agents. Human resources. We are an equal opportunity employer and we comply with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. We hire qualified employees and we utilize them at the level of their competency. Mulazama Nursing and Home Health Care provides a safe and healthy working environment that is free of hazards and supportive for personal development and growth. Service delivery general duties as to good professional conduct. All personnel must respect the integrity and individuality of every person served that he or she may treat or with whom he or she comes into contact with. No personnel may engage in any act which is intended to or has the effect of exploiting a relationship with a person served for his own personal gain. All personnel must maintain the highest ethical standards and must behave at all times with courtesy, respect, dignity, and discretion in all relationships with the person served. Conflict of interest. Any possible conflict of interest must be disclosed to the supervisor. Identification of a conflict of interest at an early stage is important. All actions depend on the situation to resolve the issues in a consistent and appropriate manner. A conflict of interest tends to occur in the below-mentioned ways. When an individual has the opportunity to use his or her work position for personal financial gain or to benefit a company in which the individual has a financial interest. When outside financial or other interests may inappropriately influence the way in which an individual carries out his or her work responsibilities. Exchanging of gifts, money, and gratuities. The acceptance or provision of gifts may be considered as a conflict of interest. Personal fundraising during work on company premises is prohibited. Personnel may not leave any valuable or unnecessary personal property at the work site. Mulazama Nursing and Home Healthcare is not responsible for lost or stolen items. Setting boundaries. Personnel shall refrain from engaging in any form of sexual or romantic relationship with persons to whom they are providing a professional service or the family members. Personnel shall refrain from engaging in harassment and strive to maintain their workplace free from sexual harassment. Personnel shall recognize and know how to report any harassment or unwelcome verbal or physical behavior. Informed consent. All personnel must ensure that he or she does not engage in the treatment of a patient unless informed consent has been obtained from or on behalf of that patient to the treatment which is to be provided. All personnel must communicate fully with the person served and keep them informed about the nature and purpose of all tests and treatment, and communicate promptly and fully all results and the clinical implication of such results. Record keeping and information management. Confidential records like the employee files and patient files are stored in a fireproof steel cabinet and secured with a lock. Data management and confidentiality. All personnel must comply at all times with hard regulatory requirements relating to the rights of a patient to have access to data provided that the patient or the legal guardian submits a signed document request form. The rights of a patient to require that data are transferred to another professional provided that the patient or the legal guardian signs a signed document request form. All personnel must treat as confidential all information related to the person served. Witnessing of a legal document is conducted in accordance with the UAE law and hard regulations, provided that the person now notifies the company at least 7 days in advance. All personnel must at all times act in the best interest of the person served. Prohibition of waste, fraud, abuse, and other wrongdoings. Our company is dedicated to prevention and detection of fraud, waste, and abuse and other wrongdoings. The procedure to deal with allegations of violations of ethical codes. All personnel are expected to report any violation of the codes of conduct or any applicable law of which he or she becomes aware to the following individuals: the head nurse or the clinical manager, human resources department, or our COO. Consequences of violating the ethical code of conduct. Failure to comply with this policy will result in a disciplinary action ranging from a reprimand to a dismissal. Responding to legal actions and requirements. Our company is dedicated to preserve all staff's privacy and confidentiality during an investigative process. Malazima Nursing and Home Healthcare, as per the legal authorities, will be subject to comply with the requirements when a subpoena, court order, and a search warrant is presented. We are obliged to provide specified person's information if required by law by preserving his or her confidentiality. If presented with a subpoena or court order, the personnel would contact the COO immediately. We need to escort the law enforcement personnel to a private room until the COO arrives. When she will arrive, we need to notify the person named on the subpoena by phone or email. We need to obtain a copy of the subpoena or court order and provide a copy to the HR department for further investigation. Personnel should be summoned by the COO and be informed about the expectations from the officers executing the warrant. We will seek consultation with a legal advisor if needed. We will complete an incident report form and maintain records of all subpoena or court orders with the HR department or the COO. Orders and follow-up action taken should be documented. Employees are allowed to testify in court and provide notification to the company 2 to 3 days ahead to avoid conflict in schedule. Upon presentation of a warrant, the COO will read the warrant carefully, will ensure that the warrant is signed by a judge or magistrate. If there is a discrepancy, will notify the agent in charge. Will inform the agent in charge if there is any discrepancy between the scope of search document and the search conducted. Will remind the staff not to remove, destroy, alter, or otherwise conceal anything subject to the search warrant, or attempt to assist the agent in retrieving those documents. Will advise the staff that the agents may ask questions when executing the warrant. Will observe the search process, do not impede or obstruct. Will obtain a copy of each item seized. If the agent in charge refuses to permit you to obtain a copy, will record in detail all the items that are seized. Will request backup copies of all documents and computer disks before the agents will seize the computers. Will inform the staff not to discuss the search warrant or any related events with other staff. Confidentiality of records. The purpose is to maintain and protect the privacy and confidentiality of all stakeholders' information contained in the records. The policy is that all Mulazama nursing and home healthcare personnel should sign and comply with the company's confidentiality agreement. This policy addresses the different responsibilities of the staff, the service providers, and other stakeholders for protecting the personal information under Mulazama nursing and home healthcare. Security and confidentiality. We aim to ensure that there are adequate procedures in place to protect the company's information against accidental loss, destruction, and damage to files. Information Asset Management. We have an external IT team that is responsible for centralized systems and ensuring that all procedures outline the frequency of backups and other processes to promote and support confidentiality and data protection. Employee confidentiality. Staffs are strictly required to keep the confidentiality of any information about the person served and other stakeholders with sensitive information pertaining to the operation of the organization. Any violation of these requirements is subject to serious misconduct and may result in disciplinary action or a breach of the ethical code of conduct. Transporting confidential information. The staff must record the information that is being taken off-site, the reason why, the location and the person or agency that it has been taken to. The staff must return the information back on site and in a secure area as soon as possible. You need to document that the information has been returned. Each and every confidential information needs to be secure at all times and kept away from public access and must be stored in a secure location at the end of each working day. Computers, media storage, email, and internet use. The screens of all computers must be angled away from the sight of others. All computers must be protected with password and auto-lock when left unattended. All staff should be aware of the following security procedures such as no sharing of passwords, external drives are not allowed in the workplace, and photocopy printers must be placed in an area with limited public access. Our next policy and procedure is the scope of service. Policy entails that the Mulazama Nursing and Home Healthcare Facility is authorized by HUD to provide excellent quality of healthcare services by highly skilled licensed professionals in every resident home in Abu Dhabi. We provide only healthcare services as defined by HUD standards for home health care services. We provide services to all patients who are qualified to receive skilled home care services as per demand insurance criteria. Our physician receives the patient and the service is led by the skilled registered nurses, the physiotherapist under the supervision of the head nurse and the center physician. Social media policy. The policy sets out on how employees must behave when using the company's social media accounts, as well as explaining the rules about using personal social media accounts at work or when relating to the organization or personnel. Social media websites and software application refers to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other applications. When using the social media, we expect stakeholders not to bring the company into disrepute by expressing views or behaving in a way that will bring the company into a disrepute. Any stakeholders who bring the company into a disrepute will be subject to home care disciplinary policies. Personal hygiene guidelines. Uniform should be kept clean at all times. Hair should be clean and well groomed at all times. Hands and nails should be clean and well cared. In hand wash, we should observe the proper hand washing procedures at all times as part of the clinical training. You should make sure that you take a bath every day. All wounds and burns should be properly cleaned and covered. Accessories should be kept to a minimum. We should wear protective equipment like gloves, mask, apron, etc. whilst on duty. Sick leave and illnesses should be immediately reported to the office, and make sure that footwear should be clean and in good condition at all times. Dress code and grooming. Uniform and grooming for healthcare professionals. Always wear your uniform according to the standard. This is the standard uniform for the clinical staff, the nurses, the physiotherapists, and the caregivers. This is also the standard uniform for the drivers. You should make sure that your uniform is clean and well groomed and in good condition at all times. You can wear white or black socks, appropriate and comfortable footwear, no bright hair colors or dyes or highlights is allowed, no heavy makeup, like also fake eyelashes, no contact lenses unless necessary, no jewelries except for wedding rings. For the drivers, you should have the company t-shirt with the logo, black slacks, black socks, leather shoes, wear the company badge, and always carry your UAE driver's license. Verification of personal background and credentials. Recruitment of personnel should meet the specific job description standards to meet the needs of the person served and the company. Personnel should be selected based on certificate, experience, and skills. Malazima Nursing and Home Healthcare will not discriminate in provision of services or employment with respect to age, religion, gender preference, marital status, or source of payment. Assessment should be based on consistent criteria at every stage. Orientation and ongoing training. Malazima Nursing and Home Healthcare will educate the new employees about the organization, culture, product, and procedures, as well as provide a clear understanding of expectations. New employees will participate in an orientation program in order to receive information about the company, basic policies, performance expectations, job descriptions, etc. We also support the opportunities for personnel to learn and grow in their jobs. For personnel to optimize these opportunities, it is critical that there is recognition on how individuals learn. There are various ways which we offer educational opportunities to better care for the person served. We provide competency-based training to clinical staff every month, which is done by the clinical manager or the charge nurse. Malazima Nursing and Home Healthcare does require clinical staff to undergo the BLS training as a requirement for HARD. A copy of the BLS card and certificate is given to HR to update the records, and it's also used for HARD. When expired, the staff will be informed to attend the BLS training for the renewal, and the expenses for this will be incurred by the staff. CME training for renewal of license is completed prior to the renewal of license. Staff is informed in advance to attend CME and submit the requirements for the renewal of license. CME is mostly free training, which can be done online or physically at any medical facility or training center. Employment contract and probationary employment. As per the UAE labor law, there are two types of employment contract, the limited term contract and the unlimited. Majority of our employees are on the limited term contract. It mentions the start date and the end date of the employment period. Unless the contract is renewed, it is automatically cancelled when it expires. The contract includes a notice period of 1 to a maximum 3 months for termination. The unlimited term contract are for the staff whose contract is renewed. So it has a start date with no end date, so it can be terminated at any time. Probationary employment. Probationary period involves 6 months from the start date of employment, during which the employer can terminate the contract by giving other party a notice of 1 day. If the work performance is not good during the 6-month probationary period, his or her services can be discontinued by the employer. Personal job description policy. The written job descriptions are established for each job classification, which includes the following: the job title, the essential functions of the job or duties, the job qualifications like the license, certification, education, training, experience, and competency, job responsibilities, line of authority. Upon hiring, the employee will sign the job description as evidence of understanding the contents. If the job description is changed during the employment, it will be reviewed with the employee, who will then sign the revised job description. Personal record. Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare keeps the personal record for all employees listed with the labor system under Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare. The personal record file includes CV, candidate information form, job application form, job description, offer letter, certificates of training, education certificates, staff data form, data flow report, and HOD license for clinical staff, BLS and CME certificates, copy of the passport, visa, insurance, Emirates ID, labor card, labor contract, medical results, hepatitis records, confidentiality agreement, and other documents. Whatever documents collected from the employees when they join is of importance to us for maintaining the personal files in HR, collection of documents for licensing, as well as for the visa process. Original passport is handed over, and the original passport size photo on the day of joining. After the resident visa process, the original passport is retained by the company under the care of the PRO. If required for annual leave or embassy or any other reasons, the staff will fill out the passport request form, which should be approved by the COO. 1 day notice is required by the PRO to come to the office to release the original passports of the staff. Promotion and non-discrimination procedure. Policy is to ensure that the recruitment process is fair and meeting the requirement of the Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare. We need to ensure that the appropriate staff recruited is placed and promoted. We need to ensure that the development of staff recruited through promotion or vacant position. Promotions are based upon the employer's competitive qualifications, including knowledge, education, training, skills, and demonstrated ability. Non-discriminatory. We need to ensure a consistent and equitable process for the selection of personnel for Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare, which allows a process for the recruitment and selection of staff that ensures equal consideration of applicants whose qualifications are commensurate with the anticipated job responsibilities. We do not discriminate in provision of services or employment compensation, assignment of work, and promotion with respect to age, race, color, religion, creed, status, gender preference, sex, marital status, nation, origin, disability, or socio-economic status, and comply with the state laws and regulations. Transportation policy. Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare recognize that it is the responsibility in regard to vehicles and drivers of vehicles. The policy is in accordance to the UAE Road Traffic Law. Mulazima only authorized passengers should be carried in the company vehicles as follows: Mulazima personnel on duty or to and from duty. Personnel engaged in work for or on behalf of Mulasama. Other persons as authorized by the management. It is the legal responsibility of a driver to ensure that the passengers and goods are carried safely at all times. All employees who are being serviced by Mulasama drivers are obligated to be outside of their accommodation on time to prevent the delay of other employees. No goods will be carried in a company vehicle other than the property which belongs to Mulasama, or tools, equipment, and materials being carried on behalf of Mulasama or as otherwise authorized by Mulasama. If any legal proceedings are being taken against our company drivers whilst undertaking their duties or on behalf of the company, they should without delay inform the facility. The company is not responsible for any unaccepted or illegal behavior of the driver, and only the driver will be responsible for it. Company Identification Badge. Mulasama Nursing and Home Healthcare issues the company identification card for all new employees after their joining with the company. The ID card is issued after the labor card is processed. As part of the joining formalities, we collect a passport-size photo from the new employee for the company identity card. All staff should wear the company badge whilst on duty. In case the company badge is lost, it has to be reported to HR immediately. Attendance and working hours. All Mulasama Nursing and Home Healthcare employees are expected and obligated to follow and comply with the company's working hours. All changes in the working hours or schedule will be discussed to all employees before implementing. The minimum working hours for admin employees is 8 hours a day, 48 hours per week. For the clinical staff or company's healthcare professionals like the nurses, caregivers, and the physiotherapist, the minimum working hours or duty per month is 220 hours as per the demand services. The breakdown in full for the working hours will be 11 or 11.5 hours per day. In 30 days months, you will be eligible for overtime. It will be 20 days duties and 10 days off. In the 31 days months, you are eligible for overtime. It will be 21 days duty and 10 days off. The 1 day will be considered as an OT. It is usually 4 days duty, 2 days off, and the 7th day is considered a working day. Office hours. Our regular office hours is Sunday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Employees are not allowed to do any activities that are not related to their work during the working hours. This may be ground for necessary disciplinary actions. In the event that the employee will be late or won't be able to attend his or her duty, the employee needs to inform his or her immediate supervisor no later than 2 hours before the start of duty, except for emergency cases. In the event that the reason for being late or absent is due to an illness or the employee was brought to the hospital, he or she needs to present a valid sick leave form from the facility. Clinical staff will have an attendance sheet that they need to fill up on every duty, which needs to be submitted at the end of the month for computing of salaries and overtime. Clinical staff will submit their attendance sheet to the head nurse. The head nurse will submit the attendance sheet to the finance department for computing and filing. Being late or absent without prior notice will be considered tardy, and the employee is entitled to have an appropriate disciplinary action. Sick leave. The employer should inform his or her immediate supervisor regarding the planned leave not later than 2 hours except for emergency situations. The employee should be presenting a valid sick leave certificate to the HR department, and it should be approved by HUD. Sick leave should not be granted for employees under the probationary period as per the UAE labor law. After completing 3 months from the probationary period, which is 9 months as per our company policy, the employee shall be entitled to a sick leave not exceeding 90 days successive or otherwise in respect of each year of service, to be calculated as follows as per the UAE labor law. It is the first 15 days with full pay, the next 30 days with half pay, any subsequent periods without pay. Annual leave. An employee will be entitled to have an annual leave once he or she completes the first year of contractual service to Mulazima Nursing and Home Healthcare. The employee will fill out the leave form from the HR department and pass it to the immediate supervisor for checking the schedule. The immediate supervisor will meticulously check the schedule and see if there's any conflict or lacking of staff if the employee goes on leave. The total number of leave days for each should be 30 days only and should not exceed to avoid the leave application from being rejected for approval. Leave form should be submitted 40 days before the start of the first day of leave. Whether approved or not, the immediate supervisor will pass the leave form to the HR department. The HR department will then pass the leave form to the COO for signing and the process of air ticket if entitled. After approval, the HR department will then pass the leave form to the finance department for the payroll purposes and then will keep copy for the files. Upon resuming of duty, the employee will sign the resume of duty form and then pass to HR department. The HR department will pass a copy of the resume of duty form after approval to the finance department for the payroll purposes. Maternity leave. The employee is required to give a minimum of 4 weeks notice to the immediate supervisor before signing or passing the maternity leave form. Dates of maternity leave will be 45 days as per the UAE labor law. If necessary, the employee may request for additional maternity leave unpaid, and additional days will start after the last day of her paid maternity leave. The maternity leave or additional leave form will then be passed to the HR department for filing and a copy to finance department for the payroll purposes. Emergency leave. If in case an emergency happens and the employee needs to go on leave, the matter will be discussed depending on the case and it will be approved for a maximum of 2 weeks only. Grievance management system. If there is any grievances that the staff need to report, it should be reported to the immediate supervisor. This is the step 1. If it's not resolved, then we will approach the HR department. If it is not resolved there, then we can either approach the COO or the CEO. Normally, all grievances can be resolved and finalized with the COO, and we will come to a solution to each and every problem. Performance evaluation. Performance evaluation is an effective way of communication and counseling where the employee and the supervisor will formally discuss the job performance and establishing performance goals and evaluating and updating established performance goals. The performance evaluation is done once the employee completes the probationary period and it continues annually. The employee's performance will be evaluated by the immediate supervisor on the basis of a 5-point rating scale as mentioned below. 5 for outstanding, 4 for exceeding the job requirements, 3 for fully competent, 2 for below job requirements, and 1 for unsatisfactory. So the first evaluation is the 6 months probationary period. Once you pass the 6 months probationary period, you will be called for a meeting with your immediate supervisor. If all goes well in the meeting for the probationary evaluation, then your services will be confirmed and you will continue forward. If the performance is not good, then the employer can decide to end the services of the employee within the probationary period. The second is the evaluation, which is yearly assessment, and upon completion of every 12 months, you will be evaluated. You'll be called for a meeting with your immediate supervisor. Your work performance will be discussed and you will be evaluated according to the 5 points rating scale. Disciplinary action, resignation and termination. Disciplinary action. Verbal warning. The immediate supervisor may conduct a verbal warning to the employee stating the reason why the next step of disciplinary action if such incident will be repeated. Written warning. The penalty for next and exceeding disciplinary action involves the issuance of warning letters, which includes the first written warning, second written warning, and third written warning. If there is any deduction of salary during the first, second, and third written warning, The instructions will come from the management and it will be based on the severity of the incident. If the employee continuously starts violating the company policies or making mistakes and further warnings are issued, the next step is suspension and the final will be termination. Resignation. For breach of the limited term contract, the employee should provide a 3 months notice prior to his or her last date of service and should pay 45 days salary. For unlimited term contract, the employee should provide a 1 month's notice prior to his or her last date of service. For administration personnel, he or she should provide a proper handover report. All resignation process should follow the UAE labor law. If you complete the limited term contract of 2 years, there is no payment required. But a breach of contract by not completing the 2-year contract and if you decide to leave, you need to give notice period of 3 months and you have to pay the 45 days salary. Termination of the probationary employee. Probation period involves 6 months from the date of joining with the company. Employment can be terminated in the case that the company is not satisfied with the employee's performance. Employment can be terminated in the case that the employee is not satisfied with the position, working environment, and the operations of the facility. In the case that the company is not satisfied with the employee's performance. Termination due to serious misconduct. If the employee fails to uphold the expected standards and the progressive disciplinary process has been completed. In some circumstances, immediate termination may be warranted, depending on the severity and the circumstances. When an employee fails to comply with the company's confidentiality agreement, all factors written in the company's internal policy and termination for reasons mentioned in Article 120. End of service benefit or final settlement. The end of service benefit, commonly known as gratuity, will be paid to the employee upon the completion of the work relationship, provided that the employee should complete 1 year of continuous service with the company. The calculation is based on the last received basic salary. For the limited term contract is 21 days pay for each year of the first 5 years of services. It is 30 days pay for each additional year, provided that the entire total remuneration shall not exceed 2 years' pay. Exit clearance procedures. Employee shall notify the HR, giving 3 months' notice on the limited term contract prior to the contract end date, and submit a resignation if they don't wish to renew the employment contract. The last working day will be the contract end date, after which the exit clearance form will be issued and the employee can return all company-owned items and sign the exit clearance. The official email will be deactivated after the last working day. An exit interview will be conducted for the leavers with the COO. The final settlement, along with the passport cancellation paper and COO, will be released after. If you have any questions regarding this orientation program, we have a feedback form which you need to complete, and you can put your comments or your opinions or your suggestions with regards to the HR orientation program. There is a HR quiz form which you need to complete. It's based on all the information that has been discussed on this HR orientation program. So I would like to advise you to fill out the HR quiz, which is a test, and so it will test your knowledge of what you have learned so far. So kindly complete the HR quiz form along with the feedback form, so we will know your opinions with regards to the HR orientation. I'd like to thank you for your time in listening to the HR orientation, and I hope that all this information about our company, the policies and procedures, you have gained a lot of knowledge from it. And if you have any more questions, you can reply back to me by email or you can come personally to the office. Thank you so much for your time and hope you enjoyed our HR orientation.